The billionaire heir mistook me for his fiancée. The first time I met Ethan Blackwood, he asked me to marry him in front of 200 strangers. I had never seen him before in my life. Yet there he was, standing beneath a crystal chandelier in the grand ballroom of the Blackwood Charity Gala, holding out a diamond ring worth more than everything I had ever owned combined. Cameras flashed nonstop. Reporters surged forward. Everyone waited for my answer. Then translucent words appeared in front of my eyes. Timeline divergence detected. Ethan Blackwood has identified the wrong woman. Estimated correction time, 3 minutes. My breath caught. I blinked. The words remained suspended in the air as if someone had projected them onto invisible glass. I looked around. Nobody else reacted. Nobody else could see them. "Miss!" Ethan's voice pulled me back. His dark eyes searched my face with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "I've been looking for you for 15 years. 15 years. I had lived in 3 different apartments during that time and spent most of my teenage years working after school to help my mother pay rent. I had definitely never met the heir to one of the country's wealthiest families. "Sir," I started carefully, "I think you've mistaken me for someone else." Before he could answer, the ballroom doors flew open. A woman in an elegant white gown hurried inside, breathing hard as if she had been running. Every head turned toward her. She was stunning. Long chestnut hair, flawless makeup, effortless confidence. The system text shifted immediately. "Primary candidate has arrived. Original engagement sequence available." I let out the breath I had been holding. Good, the misunderstanding would end. I stepped back and prepared to disappear into the crowd. Instead, Ethan looked from her back to me. Then he frowned. "No." The room fell silent. "You're not her." The elegant woman's smile faltered. "Ethan, the necklace." His eyes remained on me. "Where did you get that necklace?" My fingers instinctively touched the tiny silver pendant hanging around my neck. It wasn't valuable. The chain had been repaired twice. The pendant itself was slightly scratched. My mother had given it to me when I was 6. "I've always had it," I answered honestly. Ethan's expression changed. The color drained from his face. "That's impossible." The floating text flickered violently. Identification error. Identification error. Memory conflict detected. I had no idea what any of it meant. All I knew was that every camera in the ballroom was now pointed directly at me. This is Original Creation, by Romance Hobbit. Within an hour, my face was everywhere online. The mysterious woman beside Ethan Blackwood. Secret fiancé exposed. Billionaire heir rejects longtime sweetheart. My phone vibrated so often I finally switched it off. My roommate Mia nearly dropped her dinner when I walked through our apartment door. "Ava," she shoved her tablet toward me. "Tell me that isn't you." Unfortunately, it was. The photos captured every awkward second of the proposal. Ethan kneeling, me looking completely confused. The woman in white staring at us from across the ballroom. "I didn't do anything," I muttered. Mia laughed nervously. "The internet doesn't care." She wasn't wrong. Comments were multiplying by the second. Gold digger, homewrecker, lucky girl, professional actress, secret lover. I rubbed my temples. "I just want this to disappear." Before Mia could answer, someone knocked on our apartment door. 3 sharp knocks. We exchanged confused looks. Almost nobody knew where we lived. Mia opened the door cautiously. 2 people stood outside. A woman in a navy business suit. A tall man wearing black gloves despite the warm weather. "Good evening," the woman said politely. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Ethan Blackwood." My stomach sank. Mia looked at me with wide eyes before stepping aside. The visitors entered without unnecessary conversation. The woman placed a sealed envelope on our coffee table. "Mr. Blackwood requests a private meeting tomorrow morning." I folded my arms. "I think he's made enough mistakes involving me." She nodded once. "He agrees." That answer surprised me. "Then why meet?" She hesitated for the first time. "Because after reviewing certain records tonight," she glanced briefly at the pendant around my neck. "Mr. Blackwood no longer believes your meeting was an accident." The floating text appeared again, quieter than before. Hidden history unlocked. Probability that Ava and Ethan met as children, 89%. My heartbeat quickened. Childhood? That couldn't be right. I had no memories of anyone named Ethan Blackwood. The woman handed me one final item before leaving, an old photograph. It had clearly faded with age. 2 children stood beside a lake holding hands. One was a little boy wearing an expensive-looking coat. The other was a little girl with a crooked ponytail and a tiny silver pendant hanging around her neck. The same pendant I was wearing now. I slowly turned the photograph over. Written in neat handwriting were 6 simple words. "Find me when we're grown up." I didn't sleep that night. The photograph remained on my bedside table, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw the little girl wearing my necklace. She looked happy, happier than I had ever been as a child, yet I couldn't remember that day at all. By sunrise, I had searched through every old family photo stored on my phone. Nothing. No lake, no little boy, no expensive coat, just birthdays, school pictures, and blurry snapshots of my mother smiling despite looking exhausted. The floating words appeared again. Memory seal remains intact. Trigger approaching. I frowned. Memory seal! The words faded before I could read anything else. At exactly 9 o'clock, a sleek black car stopped outside my apartment building. The same woman in the navy suit stepped out. Miss Ava. She opened the rear door. Mr. Blackwood is waiting. I climbed inside with more questions than answers. The drive lasted nearly 40 minutes before the city disappeared behind us. Eventually, iron gates opened to reveal an enormous estate surrounded by gardens and towering oak trees. I'd only ever seen places like this in movies. The car stopped in front of a mansion that looked more like a palace. Before I could even gather my thoughts, the front door opened. Ethan was already waiting. He wasn't wearing a tailored suit this time, just a black sweater with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. Somehow, he looked even more intimidating. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. I almost didn't. A faint smile crossed his face. I know. He led me into a library larger than my entire apartment. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Old paintings covered the walls. A fire crackled softly in the corner despite the warm weather. Ethan placed the photograph on the table between us. "Do you remember this day?" I looked at it again. No. Nodded as if he'd expected that answer. Then he reached into a drawer and removed another photograph. This one showed the same two children sitting on a wooden dock, their feet dangling over the water. The little boy was laughing. The little girl was holding up a tiny fish with the proudest smile I'd ever seen. "You caught your first fish that day," Ethan said. "Then you cried because you wanted to put it back." My head suddenly throbbed. For a split second, I smelled fresh rain. I heard children laughing. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table, then it vanished. The floating text appeared immediately. Memory fragment recovered. Synchronization 4%. Ethan noticed my expression. "You remembered something. Just a feeling." His eyes softened. "That's more than yesterday." Before I could respond, the library door burst open. "Ethan!" The elegant woman from the gala stormed inside. She stopped the moment she saw me. "Why is she here?" Ethan didn't look at her. "Because I invited her." "After everything," her voice rose, "you embarrassed me in front of the entire country." He finally met her eyes. "Claire, I never proposed to you." Silence filled the room. Claire's face turned pale. "What?" "I proposed to the girl I remembered." He glanced toward me. "And I think I finally found her." Claire looked at me with an expression that made my skin crawl. It wasn't sadness, it wasn't heartbreak, it was fear. Claire left without another word. The heavy library doors closed behind her with a quiet thud. For several moments, neither Ethan nor I spoke. I was the first to break the silence. She looked terrified. Ethan's jaw tightened. "She should be." "Why?" He stared into the fireplace before answering. "Because for 15 years she let everyone believe she was the girl from those photographs." My eyes widened. "She knew." He nodded slowly. "My grandfather searched for you after the accident." "Accident?" Ethan looked at me carefully, as if deciding how much to reveal. "The day those photographs were taken, someone tried to kidnap me." My heartbeat quickened. "What? You stopped them?" I blinked. "I was a child. So were they." His voice remained calm, but I noticed the way his hands clenched. "You pulled the emergency alarm at the lakeside lodge. The kidnappers ran before security arrived." I stared at him in disbelief. "I don't remember any of that." "I know." Ethan walked to one of the bookshelves and removed a thick leather folder. Inside were newspaper clippings from 15 years ago. Wealthy family heir survives kidnapping attempt. Child witness missing after fire. Family searches for young heroine. My stomach dropped. Fire. Ethan quietly turned another page. A photograph showed a burned wooden cabin near the lake. "Your family disappeared after that day." I looked up sharply. "My mother told me we moved because of work." Ethan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid one final document toward me. It was a hospital report. Patient, Ava Morgan, age 6, diagnosis, severe concussion. Temporary memory loss following head trauma. My breathing became uneven. Temporary memory loss. The floating text slowly appeared above the folder. Hidden root confirmed. Ava's memories were never naturally lost. They were buried to protect her. My eyes fixed on the last sentence. To protect her. Protect me from what? Before Ethan could speak again, his phone rang. The moment he answered, his expression changed completely. "What?" His voice turned ice cold. "When?" He ended the call without another word. "What's wrong?" He looked directly at me. "Your apartment." My heart stopped. "What about it?" "Someone broke in 10 minutes ago." The floating text flashed crimson across my vision. New threat detected. The person who erased Ava's past has started looking for her again. The drive back to the city felt endless. Ethan sat beside me without saying a word, his gaze fixed on the rain sliding across the car window. Every few minutes, his phone vibrated with updates from his security team. Every time he read one, the lines in his expression deepened. I finally broke the silence. "Was anyone hurt?" He looked up immediately. "Your roommate wasn't home." Relief washed over me so suddenly I had to close my eyes. Thank goodness. "But whoever entered your apartment wasn't looking for money." My stomach tightened. "How do you know?" Ethan turned his phone toward me. The security photographs showed drawers hanging open, books scattered across the floor, and picture frames left untouched despite containing expensive electronics nearby. Whoever broke in had ignored anything valuable. They had searched with purpose. "They were looking for something specific," Ethan said quietly. My fingers instinctively closed around the silver pendant resting against my neck. He noticed. "I think you're right." The floating words shimmered faintly before me. Object of interest identified. Probability the pendant contains hidden information. Hi, I swallowed. "It's just a necklace." "Maybe once." Ethan's voice remained calm. "But someone was willing to break into your home for it." The car finally stopped outside my apartment building. Police officers were already finishing their investigation. Yellow tape stretched across the entrance. Mia spotted me first and rushed forward, throwing her arms around me. "You're okay." "I'm fine." She stepped back, her eyes immediately landing on Ethan. "You're really him." Ethan nodded politely. "I'm sorry this happened." Mia folded her arms. "Sorry doesn't clean up our apartment." Instead of taking offense, Ethan simply replied, "No, but my team will." Within minutes, professional cleaners, locksmiths, and investigators arrived. Watching them work felt surreal. Problems that would have taken me weeks to solve were being handled before sunset. Ethan noticed my expression. "You're uncomfortable." "I'm just not used to people fixing things this quickly." His eyes softened. "You shouldn't have had to get used to fixing everything alone." I didn't know how to answer that. That evening, while the investigators searched the apartment, one of them called Ethan over. "Sir." He held up an old shoebox recovered from beneath my bed. "This was hidden behind the floorboard." I frowned. "I've never seen that before." The investigator carefully opened it. Inside were dozens of faded photographs. Most showed the same lakeside lodge from 15 years earlier. Some included Ethan as a child. Others included me. But one photograph made my heart stop. A woman stood beside us, smiling warmly. She looked so familiar it hurt. "My mother," I whispered. Ethan picked up the photograph carefully. "Who's the man beside her?" I looked closer, tall, dark-haired, wearing a ranger's uniform. My head suddenly pounded. A sharp flash crossed my mind. The smell of pine trees, someone laughing, a deep voice saying, "Stay close to your mother." I staggered backward, grabbing the edge of the table. Ethan caught my arm before I lost my balance. "Ava!" I looked up at him, breathing hard. I know his voice. The headache faded as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind only fragments. They weren't memories I could fully grasp. They felt like pages torn from a book, scattered by the wind. Ethan helped me sit down. "Don't force it." I almost remembered. "Almost is enough for today." The floating words returned. Memory recovery accelerating. Emotional proximity required for full restoration. I frowned. Emotional proximity. Ethan couldn't see the glowing message, but he noticed my distraction. "The words again." I blinked. "How did you know?" A faint smile appeared. "You always look slightly to the left when they appear." I laughed despite everything. "You've been paying attention." "To you." His smile faded into something quieter. "More than I intended." My heartbeat stumbled. Before either of us could say anything else, Ethan's phone rang again. This time he answered on speaker. "Sir," his head of security said, "we identified the man who entered Miss Morgan's apartment." Ethan's expression hardened. "Who is he?" "His fingerprints match someone employed by a private security firm that dissolved 14 years ago." "Who owned the firm?" A brief silence followed. "Your family's former business partner." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Send me everything." The call ended. He looked at me. "The past isn't finished with either of us." Before I could respond, Mia walked in carrying a sealed envelope that had been wedged beneath the apartment door during the chaos. This wasn't here earlier. My name was written neatly across the front. I carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No signature, no return address, just one sentence. If you remember what happened at the lake, neither of you will survive long enough to tell anyone. I read it twice before folding it shut. Ethan held out his hand. May I? I passed him the letter. He read it once, then quietly slipped it into his jacket pocket. You're coming with me. What? Until we know who's behind this, you're not staying here alone. I hesitated. Ethan, he met my eyes, calm but unwavering. 15 years ago, you protected me without knowing who I was. He paused. This time, let me protect you. The floating words glowed softly. Trust changes the future. Some promises are remembered by the heart long before they're remembered by the mind. Outside the apartment window, across the street, a man lowered a pair of binoculars and disappeared into the evening crowd. Moving into Ethan's estate felt like stepping into someone else's life. The guest room alone was larger than the apartment Mia and I had shared for 3 years. Every window overlooked perfectly trimmed gardens. Every hallway was lined with paintings older than my grandparents. I stood in the middle of the room feeling completely out of place. A knock came at the door. Come in. Ethan entered carrying a small wooden box. These belonged to my grandfather. He placed the box on the table between us. He kept them locked away after the accident. I slowly lifted the lid. Inside were dozens of letters tied together with a faded blue ribbon. On top rested a small brass key. What's this? We don't know. He picked up one of the letters. My grandfather wrote to the little girl who saved my life every year. I looked at him in surprise. Every year, he nodded. He never stopped believing we'd find you. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the first letter. Dear little hero, Ethan still refuses to eat vegetables unless I tell him you're probably eating yours. He says he'll prove he's braver than you one day. I hope wherever you are, someone is taking good care of you. My vision blurred. I quickly opened another. Dear little hero, Ethan won his first swimming competition today. He insisted on leaving an empty seat beside us because he said you'd come back eventually. Then another. Dear little hero, Ethan asked if forgetting someone means you stop belonging to them. I told him no. Some people remain family even when memory fails. I couldn't stop the tears. 15 years. Someone had remembered me every single year while I couldn't remember them at all. Ethan quietly handed me a handkerchief. He would have been happy you finally came home. I laughed weakly through my tears. Home? That's what he always called this place. His voice softened. He said if we ever found you, this house would be yours too. Before I could answer, the floating text appeared, emotional synchronization increasing, memory barrier weakening. I suddenly heard a familiar melody, a piano, somewhere in the mansion. My head snapped toward the hallway. Do you hear that? Ethan frowned. Hear what? The music continued, gentle, familiar. Without thinking, I walked out of the room and followed it, through one corridor, then another, until I reached a locked white door at the end of the east wing. The melody stopped. My hand rested against the doorknob. My heart pounded so violently it hurt. The floating text flickered. Memory chamber located. The white door was locked. I turned the handle anyway. Nothing. Ethan caught up a moment later. Ava. I didn't look away from the door. What's in here? He studied it quietly. No one goes into this room. Why? It belonged to my grandmother. He reached into his pocket, then slowly pulled out the small brass key from the wooden box. I think, he looked from the key to the lock. This is why she kept it. The key slid in perfectly. Neither of us spoke as the lock clicked open. Ethan pushed the door inward. Dust floated through the afternoon light. White sheets covered the furniture. A grand piano stood beside the window. The room looked untouched, as though time itself had refused to enter. I took one hesitant step inside. The floating text dimmed until it was almost transparent. Core memory zone entered. My eyes wandered across the room until they landed on a framed drawing sitting on the piano. Crayon. Uneven lines. 2 children holding hands beneath a giant oak tree. My breathing caught. In the corner, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, Adrian and Ava, forever best friends. I frowned. Adrian? Ethan, I whispered. Why does this say Adrian? He closed his eyes briefly. Because Ethan isn't the name I was born with. I turned to him in confusion. What? After the kidnapping attempt, my grandfather changed my identity for security reasons. Adrian Hayes disappeared. Ethan Blackwood was born. My mind reeled. The drawing slipped from my hands onto the piano bench. Suddenly, another memory crashed into me. a little boy laughing beneath an enormous oak tree. "Promise me," he said, holding out his pinky finger. "Even if we forget each other," I heard my own childish voice answer, "we'll still find each other again." The pain behind my eyes became unbearable. I stumbled backward. Ethan caught me before I fell. My breathing became ragged. Faces, voices, rain, fire, screaming. Then one memory emerged more clearly than all the others. A man carrying me through smoke, my mother shouting my name, someone yelling, "Take the girl, she remembers their faces." My eyes flew open. It wasn't an accident. Ethan stared at me. "What did you remember?" Tears streamed down my face before I even realized I was crying. "Someone started that fire on purpose." Before Ethan could respond, the mansion's security alarm suddenly blared throughout the estate. His phone rang immediately. He answered without taking his eyes off me. "Sir," his head of security shouted, "the east gate has been breached. They're inside the estate." Ethan's expression hardened instantly. He stepped in front of me without hesitation. "Stay behind me." The floating text flashed crimson across my vision. Final conspiracy awakened. They know Ava remembers. The mansion lights flickered once before the emergency generators came online. Heavy steel shutters slid over the first-floor windows with a metallic crash. Somewhere outside, security guards shouted orders. Ethan never took his eyes off the hallway. His posture changed completely. Calm, focused, protective. "Stay with me," he said. I nodded. Somehow, despite everything happening around us, I trusted him completely. My phone suddenly vibrated. Unknown number. I hesitated before opening it. A photograph filled the screen. It had clearly been taken from outside the mansion only moments ago. The image showed Ethan standing in front of me. The message beneath it contained only 6 words. "He can't protect you forever." My blood ran cold. "Ethan," I handed him the phone. His expression darkened. "They're watching the house." Before either of us could move, another message arrived. "Check the piano." I looked toward the old piano sitting quietly beneath the window. "Should we?" Ethan hesitated for only a second before walking over. He carefully lifted the piano bench. Inside was a hidden compartment. Resting within it was a small leather journal wrapped in faded blue cloth. The floating words shimmered softly. "Archive recovered. Truth sequence beginning." I slowly opened the journal. The first page was dated 15 years earlier. "If anyone finds this, my name is Ethan Blackwood. Someone inside our family helped plan my grandson's kidnapping." I no longer know whom I can trust. Ethan's breathing became uneven. I continued reading. The little girl named Ava witnessed everything. She recognized one of the men. They will come after her next. If anything happens to me, protect that child before protecting our fortune. My hands trembled. Page after page revealed the same terrifying pattern. Anonymous threats. Missing evidence. Names crossed out in black ink. Then one sentence made my heart stop. "The traitor isn't working for our family anymore. He married into it." Ethan looked over my shoulder. "Married into it?" Before we could read another word, the library door downstairs slammed open. Footsteps echoed through the mansion. Not security. Too many, too fast. Ethan gently closed the journal. "We have to move." "What about this?" "It's coming with us." He slipped it inside his jacket. The floating text flashed urgently. Hidden passage recommended. Probability of safe escape, 68%. Ethan frowned. "There's a passage." I stared at him. "How did you know?" He gave a faint, humorless smile. "Because my grandmother built one." We hurried back toward the piano. Ethan pressed one of the carved wooden panels beneath the keyboard. A quiet click echoed through the room. The bookshelf beside us slowly swung open, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. Before we stepped inside, I looked back toward the room where my memories had finally begun returning. It no longer felt unfamiliar. Somehow, it already felt like home. The hidden tunnel smelled of old stone and damp earth. Small lights embedded along the walls flickered to life as we descended. Ethan walked slightly ahead of me, one hand holding a flashlight, the other reaching back whenever the steps became uneven. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy with everything we had learned. Finally, I asked the question that had been haunting me. "Why did everyone tell me to forget?" Ethan slowed his pace. "Because remembering made you a target. And now," he looked back at me, "now remembering may be the only way to stop them." We reached the end of the passage. A heavy iron door blocked our way. Ethan pushed it open, revealing a small underground archive lined with shelves. Unlike the library upstairs, these shelves held boxes marked only with dates. The floating words glowed brighter than ever before. Final evidence repository located. Ethan chose the oldest box. Inside were police reports, photographs, and sealed witness statements. At the bottom lay a cassette tape labeled simply, Lake House interview, Ava Morgan, age 6. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Ethan found an old tape player on a nearby shelf. The machine crackled before a tiny voice filled the room, my voice. The man had a bird on his hand. A detective asked gently, a tattoo? Yes. Can you tell me what happened? Child me sniffled. He pushed the nice lady. The tape crackled again. Then Uncle Daniel tried to stop him. Ethan looked up sharply. Daniel? I stared at the tape player. I remembered that name faintly. The recording continued. The bird man said if anyone talks, everyone dies. My younger voice began crying. He started the fire. The tape ended abruptly. Silence settled over the room. Then Ethan slowly reached into another box. Beneath a stack of documents was a family portrait. He turned it toward me. My breath caught. Standing beside Ethan's grandparents was a smiling middle-aged man. His right hand rested casually in his pocket. On his left wrist, just above his watch, was the edge of a tattoo, the wing of a bird. Ethan's face hardened. I know who he is. Who? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the portrait as though seeing it for the first time. The man everyone believed died 10 years ago. At that exact moment, every light in the archive went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then a familiar voice echoed from somewhere beyond the open doorway. You've both remembered far more than I expected. A flashlight clicked on, illuminating only a silhouette. This time, the voice said calmly, there won't be any children left alive to identify me.